Oh, my apologies, adventurers. I completely forgot to unlock the door. Speaking of locks, today's book I had in mind, well, let's just say it might unlock some deep curiosities within you all. But before any of that, please do come inside and take a seat by the fire. My companion roasted some delicious meats earlier, and it should be enough for a serving or two. I also made sure to import some fine Cyrodiilic brandy for this occasion. Let's see here. Legend of... no. The horror... not today. Ah, here we are. The Locked Room. A fine book indeed. By a person whose name is an unfortunate jumble of syllables. Way unfit for the tongue of man and mare. But, as you all know, while I may not quite be a syllabiologist, I do however know how to read quite well. So, alright then. You all seem to be comfortable with your drinks and your food? So I think it's high time we start. Shall we? Jana was precisely the kind of student that her mentor, 𝕱𝖑𝖔𝖈, despised. The professional amateur, if you will. He enjoyed all the criminal types who were his usual pupils at the stronghold. All from the common burglar to the more sophisticated blackmailers. Children and young people with strong career ambitions, which the art and science of lockpicking could facilitate. They were always interested in simple solutions, the easy way, but people like Jana were always looking for exceptions, possibilities, exotica. And for pragmatists like her mentor, it was insanely vexing for him. The Red Guard maiden, Jana, would spend hours in front of a lock, prodding at it with her wires and picks, flirting with the key pins and driver pins, exploring the hole with a sort of casual fascination that no delinquent possessed at the stronghold. Long after her fellow students had opened their test locks and moved on, Jana was still playing with hers. The fact that she always opened it eventually, no matter how advanced a lock it was, irked 𝕱𝖑𝖈 even further. You are making things much too difficult, he would roar, boxing her ears. Speed is of the essence, not merely technical know-how. I swear that if I put the key to the lock right in front of you, you'd still never get around to opening it. Jana would bear 𝕱𝖑𝖈's abuse philosophically. She had, after all, paid him in advance. Speed was indeed doubtless an important factor for the picker trying to get, well, anywhere they weren't supposed to go, especially with the city guard on patrol behind them. But Jana knew it wouldn't apply to her. She merely wanted the knowledge of it. 𝕱𝖑𝖈 did everything he could think of to encourage Jana to move faster. She seemed to perversely thrive on his physical and verbal blows, spending more and more time on each lock, learning its idiosyncrasies and its personality. Finally, he could bear it no longer. Very late one afternoon, after Jana had dawdled over a perfectly ordinary lock, he grabbed the girl by her ear and dragged her to a room in the stronghold, far, far from the other students. It was an area they had all been forbidden to visit. The room itself was completely barren, except for one large crate at its center. There were no windows, and there were no other door except for the one that led into it. 𝕱𝖑𝖔𝖈 threw his student against the crate and closed the door behind her. There was a distinct click of the lock. "This is the test for my advanced students," he laughed behind the door. "See if you can escape." Yana smiled and began her usual slow process of massaging the lock, gaining information. And after a few minutes had gone by, she heard her mentor's voice again, calling out from behind the door. "Perhaps I should mention that this is a test of speed. You see that crate behind you? It contains a vampire ancient who has been locked in here for many, many months now, and it is completely and absolutely ravenous. In a few minutes' time, the sun will have completely set, and if you have not opened this door, you will be nothing but a bloodless husk." Yana considered only for a moment whether 𝕱𝖑𝖔𝖈 was joking or not. She knew that her mentor was an evil, horrible man, but to resort to murder to teach his pupil a lesson? The moment she heard a rustling in the crate, any doubts she once had were completely erased. Ignoring all of her usual explorations, she jammed her wire into the lock. She thrust the pegs against the pressure plate and shoved open the door. 𝕱𝖑𝖆 stood in the hallway beyond, laughing cruelly. "So now you've learned the value of fast work," he said. Yana fled from 𝕱𝖑𝖆's stronghold, fighting back her tears. 𝕱𝖑𝖆 was certain that she would never return to his tutelage, but he did consider that he had taught her at least a very valuable lesson. When she did return the next morning, 𝕱𝖑𝖆 registered no surprise, but instead he was seething with rage. "I'll be leaving shortly," she explained, quietly. But I believe I have developed a new type of lock, and I would be grateful if you'd give me your opinion of it." 𝕱𝖑𝖆 shrugged and asked her to present her design. "I was wondering if I might use the vampire room and install the lock there. I think it would be better if I demonstrated it for you." 𝕱𝖑𝖆 was dubious, but the prospect of the tiresome girl leaving at last put him in an excellent and even somewhat indulgent mood. He agreed to give her access to the room itself, and for all morning and most of the afternoon, Yana worked near the slumbering vampire, removing the old lock and adding her new prototype. Finally, she asked her old master to take a look. He studied the lock with an expert eye and found little to be impressed with. "This is the first and only pick-proof lock," Yana explained, "and the only way to open it is to have the right key." 𝕱𝖑𝖆 scoffed at Yana and let her close the door, shutting him in the room. The door clicked, and he began to go to work. To his dismay, however, the lock was much more difficult than he thought it would be. He tried all of his methods to force it open, and quickly found that he had to resort to his hated student's method of careful and thorough exploration. "I need to leave now," called Yana from the other side of the door. I'm going to bring the city guard to the stronghold. I know that it's against the rules, but I really think it's for the welfare of the villagers not to have a hungry vampire on the loose. It's getting dark, and even though you aren't able to unlock the door, the vampire might be less proud about using the key to escape. Remember when you said, if I put the key to the lock right in front of you, you would still never get around to opening it? 𝕱𝖑𝖈 yelled back, "Wait! I'll use the key. Where is it? You forgot to give it to me." But there was no reply. Only the sound of footfall disappearing down the corridor beyond the door. 𝕱𝖑𝖈 began to work even harder on the lock, but his hands were shaking with fear. And with no windows in the room, it was impossible to tell just how late it was getting to be. Was it minutes that were flying him by, or were they hours? He only knew for certain that the vampire ancient would definitely know when the time was right. His tools could not stand very much twisting and tapping from his hysterical hands. The wire snapped in the keyhole. Just like a student, 𝕱𝖑𝖈 screamed and pounded on the door. But he knew that no one could possibly hear him. And it was while sucking in his last breath to scream again that he heard this distinct creaking of the crate opening up behind him. The vampire ancient regarded the master locksmith with its insane and hungry eyes, and then it flew at him in a frenzy. Before 𝕱𝖑𝖈 died, he saw it on a tiny chain that had been placed around the vampire's neck while it had been sleeping. There was a single key. Well. It seems like the student truly did surpass her master in the end. Very cleverly done, I must say. I would love to put some of Yana's locks on my treasure chests. No thief would ever stand a chance. Unless, of course, they find my key, which I always keep on my person, so I should be fine. I probably shouldn't say that out loud. 𝕱𝖑𝖈 though. He probably never expected Yana to use his own cruel teaching methods against him. He prided himself on speed, on getting things done fast, but in the end, that speed is everything mentality costed him far more than just a race. Yana proved once and for all that while haste makes waste, patience makes pick-proof locks. She took her time with every lock, like she was getting to know an old friend. 𝕱𝖑𝖈, on the other hand, couldn't handle a lock that didn't throw itself open after a few taps. I think we all know who the real locksmith was. Too bad he couldn't unlock the concept of patience, huh? Now, all of this talk of locks and vampires has me feeling a bit peckish. I think it's time for me to head back to my quarters, grab a bottle of 𝕱𝖑𝖈 and maybe even treat myself to a sweet roll or two. After all, you can't unlock the secrets of Skyrim on an empty stomach, right? But until next time, my dear listeners, safe travels, and remember, if a lock ever looks too difficult, just think about Yana and the locked room. Slow and steady wins the race, and keeps the vampires out of your face. Fare thee well, Tata.